I'm contemplating something because we're going to talk about Nico and the Vols' big win yesterday. What a great way to cap off the season. Because I know it may not have gone necessarily to plan, and 8 wins at the end of the regular season is something that we all kind of looked around and said, all right. I get it. Transition year. Nico next year. Put any expectations off for the immediate time being. But that was a really, really nice way. Checked a lot of boxes, I think, for Vols fans who were looking to get something out of yesterday's game, 35-0 against Iowa. But I am contemplating today because I was just tweeting out the link to the live stream for people to be able to watch the show, where you can also engage with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And I said, let's see how long I can go before I have to talk about the local professional football team today. And I'm contemplating this, Lucas. I don't want to refer to them by their name. I'm mulling this idea back and forth. Like, I don't think I want to call them by their name anymore. Like, he who must not be named type of situation.
Call who?
The local professional football team.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I want to refer to them. I don't think they deserve to be referred to by their name. I think I may just call them the local professional football team moving forward until such time as they redeem themselves from being an embarrassment.
Whatever floats your boat.
Okay.
Speaking of embarrassments, what did you think in your first real 4-quarter exposure to the Iowa offense?
Oh, my God. I was made to feel sad. I was made to feel sad for them because there are talented football players on the Iowa Hawkeyes offense, and you would never know. You would never know. Just consistently undermined by coaching and the way that Kirk Ferentz wants to gut these games out to no avail yesterday. I am fascinated to see what has their transfer situation been like at Iowa? Because that's something that just popped into my head while we're talking about this right now. I have to imagine that anybody who's worth a damn wants to get out of there and go play for a team that's at least on the offensive side of football. Defense, I know it's 35-0, and so you're going to say, well, what do you mean the defense played well? But, you understand why the Iowa Hawkeyes defense is what it is. They were just unprepared for that level of competition. I don't want to say unprepared, but overwhelmed by that level of competition, and also by a defensive performance by Tennessee, causing turnovers, stopping the run, things that you need to do to be able to, limit Iowa even more than they limit themselves. But I was made to feel, I went from laughing at them to somewhere between disgusted and bored by them, to just at the end when the quarterback's getting thrown down to the turf and the ball comes out of his hands and the Vols recover for an easy opportunity. I think that was before the Nico hat trick rushing touchdown. I was just made to feel sad. I was made to feel sad for Iowa.
Most points Iowa has given up this year. It's the most rush yards Iowa has given up this year defensively. And Nico, 12 of 19, 151 yards, 4 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 1 in the air.
So beyond his size, because that is, the thing that jumps off the screen about him the most. And I was telling Lucas this yesterday while we were watching. I met up with them for the second half of this game, watched the first half at home. I saw Nico at Elite 11 when Trent Dilfer was still coaching at Lipscomb, next to guys like Chris Parsons, who went on to play, initially was committed to Florida State, then went to Mississippi State.
He's currently at Mississippi State.
Okay.
Parsons out of Ravenwood.
Right, I just wanted to make... But anyway, guys like Chris Parsons at Ravenwood, who, is not he's under 6 foot. He's a high school, maybe college quarterback, and still a solid player and is good enough to play at an SEC program and things like that. And then, oh my God, there's Nico. he's every bit of 6'6". He looks like Slender Man out there. And when the ball comes off of his hand, it flies. Like, it's just a different kind of thing. And this was obviously before he went to Tennessee, was committed to Tennessee, but before he had spent a year in their program and things like that. And yesterday, selfishly, you want to see him do more as a passer. But if you're having the kind of success that they were on the ground, and he himself is a threat to use his legs in ways that, I don't know, you never got consistently out of Milton, and whether that's a comfort level thing or a game plan thing, and also some game plan stuff from the coaching staff. We'll talk about the evolution of Josh Hypel, and I think we're seeing a little bit of it with a very, very small sample size of yesterday's bowl game against Iowa. There's obviously a lot to be excited about. As Lucas said, 151 yards through the air, 27 rushing yards, including the 3 touchdowns. And this was Josh Hypel, the head coach, speaking about his 5-star freshman after the game.
I believe he's going to be a great dynamic playmaker, and know that. I thought he handled himself really composed all day long. Subtle things of breaking the huddle, communication inside of the huddle, controlling the run game. His eyes were in the right place. Great to see a young guy go out and perform in that way in his first career start. There's a lot of things that Nico can continue to grow and will continue to grow in. The challenge early in the football game was the talent of the guys playing at a really high level around him too. I didn't think we played as well as we were capable at times around him. But we got great confidence in him and in that quarterback room. We got great confidence in our young players. A lot of guys got an opportunity to play a lot more football today than they had, and a lot of them played extremely well, but it also showed some things where they got an opportunity to grow and how those things impact how the game unfolds. And I'm really excited about who's in that locker room, who's coming back, and where we have an opportunity to go in 24.
So that's Josh Hypel yesterday after the 35-0 win. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that Nico Iamaleava, based on the one performance yesterday in his first career start against a defense that is above average at very least, I'm not going to sit here and try and sell you as definitively that guy's the next big thing in college football. But there is plenty of reason for optimism around him. As Hypel said, I thought that they could have stood to be better around him at times. But it was a great coming out party for him where he's managing the situation. And it's kind of like we talked about with Levis and Malik to bring things full circle here locally. He looks like he belongs out there.
Yeah.
And I know that's generic analysis, but there is something to be said about that. And I know it's not Alabama on the road or Georgia at Neyland or, Florida in the swamp, whatever the stakes might be. But this is who he had to play the first time out, and he did so, passed with flying colors. Now, there was some operational stuff early on. He had one of the snaps hit him in the hands. He was able to recover it, got positive yardage out of it, things like that. So, it wasn't a perfect performance by any stretch of the imagination. But because of the talent, because of how comfortable he looked running the offense for the most part, and the poise that he showed, as his head coach mentioned, both in the postgame and at halftime. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the sideline reporter that was interviewing Josh Hypel at the half, but she also brought up the level of poise that he was bringing. He's 18 years old. It's easy for 18-year-old athletes, no matter what the stakes or what the level of competition are, to look a little less than. And honestly, they were talking about this a little on the broadcast. Lucas, you probably didn't hear it because it was during the first half. The commentators on ABC were saying, a lot of the bowl game opt-outs can be frustrating because you want to find ways to incentivize guys, and understanding that a lot of them are trying to protect themselves for either future opportunities in the transfer portal or with the pros coming up, as was the case for Joe Milton. But yesterday was a great example of, all right, Tennessee fans are more excited by the opt-out of Joe Milton so that they can see Nico Iamaleava, not necessarily because Milton may have given them a better chance to win the game. They won the game going away.
Sure. I think something similar would have taken place with Oklahoma fans. I'm sure they weren't thrilled to see Dillon Gabriel hit the portal and head to Oregon. But if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'd rather see my 5-star freshman Jackson Arnold play against Arizona in the Alamo Bowl than Dillon Gabriel get one last game as an Oklahoma Sooner. No, I want my guy who's going to be the guy for the next coming couple of years. That's what Tennessee got with Nico. And what you said about looking like he belongs out there, that's not a given. That
no.
is, we couldn't say that about Joe Milton the majority of the time. It was far and few between the games that you watched and you said, all right, Joe Milton looks like he belongs. He looks like he's in a very comfortable place right now. Maybe 2 games where I think you could say that about Joe Milton from start to finish. So there is something to that for me. The feel for the game, the athleticism, the decision of when to run. I liked from Nico yesterday, the accuracy, the touch. I mean, everything you wanted to see from him in his debut against arguably the best defense Tennessee has faced all season. You got to see it. And he's playing with, like Hypel said, some pieces in front of him that hopefully will not be in front of him in 2024. The offensive line really struggled in this game. They didn't have Javonte Spraggins. They did not have John Campbell. That's 2 starters. And you've got a walk-on at right tackle and Dane Davis trying to block NFL draft picks coming off the edge from that Iowa front. So outside of the offensive line, which needs to improve in a big way, think about this. Josh Hypel is now going into year 4. Tennessee in the Hypel era has not started an offensive lineman that was recruited out of high school by Josh Hypel.
Interesting.
I mean, you go down the list. Javonte Spraggins, Cooper Mays, Darnell Wright, top 10 pick last year, Gerald Mincey, John Campbell. These guys were all either Pruitt recruits or transfers that Hypel signed. So obviously that counts for him. But they have not signed, recruited, and developed an offensive lineman out of high school that has started a game. That's one thing to me that's got to improve moving forward if you want to maximize what you have with Nico Iamaleava. Because Hendon Hooker was playing with a top 10 pick at right tackle in 2022. And we saw the difference that made against Alabama and against Will Anderson.
And the skill players. Like, there was a talent drop-off on the Vols offense this year that wasn't just about Joe. So I do, and listen, it's always going to come down to the quarterback. We know these things. But Nico yesterday named the most valuable player of the Citrus Bowl. He was up there with his niece, I think, to claim the award. Did you see this from the giant Cheez-It mascot? Because Pop-Tarts went crazy with it. So Cheez-It said, we're going to create our own new Cheez-It main character.
Same building, too. Same venue.
So they have the Cheez-It creature with the trophy up there to greet Nico and his niece, who's in his arms, and the niece is terrified of this creature. As any sane, she looked to be, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 2 and 3.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable to be afraid of the giant cheese.
Perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. Anyway, so this is the quote from Nico. Post-game with the media, felt great finally to play a whole game. I have not done that in a while. Felt good to get back out there and get my feet wet. I'm proud of how the guys played. I'm proud of the guys and how they played. The receivers played a tremendous game. The O-line did good. Receivers did good. I still think there is a lot of room for us to get better. I agree.
Ramel Keaton, man. Couple of drops. Stopped running on the deep ball that looked like it would have been on target for a touchdown. It's weird what's happened with Ramel Keaton this year. Number 9 Ramel Keaton has not been the number 80 Ramel Keaton that came in for Cedric Tillman last year, and there was no drop-off there. So I'm not sure, but he did have one circus catch on the sideline where he got the foot down. That was cool to see, but that's his last game as a Vol. He did lead them in receiving with the 3 catches for 51 yards, but this wide receiver room should take a step forward next year. And if Tennessee can get Evan Stewart in there, the transfer from Texas A&M, where Tennessee is reportedly one of the schools in the mix there, then this receiver room will have a chance to be special. And I think we jumped to conclusions going into this year that because of the offense and Josh Hypel, the Josh Hypel effect, and Joe Milton and what he did in the Orange Bowl, that it was just going to be the same from the receivers as it was in 2022. No, turns out having NFL draft picks in your wide receiver room, it matters. And it mattered this year. But if Brew McCoy comes back, which Nico has said he's trying to recruit to bring back, you're talking about a wide receiver room of Brew McCoy, Deontay Thornton, Squirrel White, Mike Matthews, the 5-star coming in out of Georgia, and potentially Evan Stewart, the best receiver left in the portal. That would be really something Nico can work with moving forward next year, because you feel good about what you have at running back, need to see more from the offensive line, and the defense will be talented and deeper as a whole. And James Pierce Jr. has got an opportunity next year, I think, would it be too strong to say play himself into a first-round pick in your mind? James Pierce, pick 6 yesterday, a sack, forced fumble.
I mean, there's always a need for good edge players. I think he's probably fringe. It just depends on, it seems like a cop-out answer, but it just depends on how the draft board breaks and what teams' kind of needs are and where he, like, who's picking around the bottom of the first round and how he fits a scheme necessarily. So it's possible because he is a talented player. I think he's probably a day 2 pick right now, even after yesterday, even though he was all over the place making plays.
Brandon on the F&M Bank chat points out Chris Brazel as well, the Tulane wide receiver transfer. So, yeah, the hype train is officially running in the Nico era that is to come.
Do you see Hendon Hooker on Twitter yesterday?
The chosen one.
The chosen one. So it's a tweet at henhook2. It's the 8 ball, the magic 8 ball, obviously for 8, and it says 8 is the chosen one. Yeah, it's pretty lofty.
Well,
He's going to have a lot of pressure on him, man. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like to be Nico Iamaleava on Tennessee's campus next football season.
To you, the more, I guess, neutral viewer when you watch Tennessee football, what is the difference between...
Neutral as I wear my orange and white
Yeah,
today.
you're literally decked out in orange and white. But what is the difference to you in what we saw from Nico yesterday, MVP of the Citrus Bowl, versus what we saw from Joe, MVP of the Orange Bowl, against Clemson, and the hype that generated going into 2024?
So it's a good comparison, actually, because what Joe did in the Orange Bowl a year ago, or a little more than a year ago, was more indicative of him playing comfortably within the system. Now, I'm not saying that's not the same case for Nico, but there were more plays to be made by Nico based on feel, game situation, ball placement, and accuracy, which is the kind of stuff that you're talking about for dudes who make Sunday throws. He had a really, really nice one on the sideline, on the right sideline, where he fit a ball in that had no business being there. It was just a really, really crisp pass.
Talking about the Keaton catch.
The Keaton catch. And again, a great play by Keaton to come down with that ball. But that's a quarterback who's got confidence in his ability to get the ball exactly where it needs to be for his receiver to make a play. Now, will there be some inaccuracies at times as he grows, as, you know, if the offensive line situation is not improved substantially when next they trot out there to play a football game and things like that, because I do think that factored in yesterday. But for me, it's more about the skill set. What Nico is able to do outside of the system, as well as operating within the system. Whereas for Milton, we're looking at it as a win just because Joe played well within the system, within structure, and didn't leave a lot of variance in that Orange Bowl game. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's fair. I think from the Orange Bowl, Joe didn't overthrow Squirrel White on a deep ball touchdown, made one or two other really nice throws, like NFL-level throws where he's going through progressions. And so that kind of, and you win. Obviously, you beat Clemson, a team that is still considered at that time to be a power and a college football playoff contender. And the vibes are all good. But the operation wasn't necessarily clean in the Orange Bowl. Like, we've talked about this. The Orange Bowl last year was kind of masked by Tennessee scoring 31 points and Joe Milton deep ball and all those things. Tennessee punted 7 or 8 times. I'm pulling it up. They were 3 of 13 on third down in that game. So I thought this morning to look at the third down numbers between Tennessee and Iowa. Tennessee 3 of 12 on third down. I don't know how much of that was operation, because that didn't feel like it was lacking with Nico. It felt like the tempo was there yesterday. I thought Tennessee operated at a higher clip as far as tempo yesterday than really at any point this season.
It looked more like what we were associating Tennessee offense with Nico than it did in an entire season of Joe Milton starts.
Yeah, it looked like a Hypel offense. So what led to the third down issues? Sacks. I think most of the 6 sacks Tennessee took were on third down. You know, there were different variables. But I think I'm with you. The biggest difference was the operation felt much cleaner with Nico in this game than it did with Joe at any point in the Orange Bowl.
615-737-1045 is how you can join the discussion and react to what you saw from Nico Iamaleava yesterday, what your level of optimism is heading into the offseason now for Tennessee. A really nice bow to put on the Vols season after, you know, whatever it was relative to your expectations. I think we were all a little underwhelmed to an extent, whether you were the most brash of homers thinking that there should be more Heisman preseason noise around Joe Milton, or the most skeptical among you, which I know exists because there's always a little BVS sprinkled in where the Tennessee Volunteers are concerned.
No BVS yesterday.
No BVS yesterday.
Iowa got close to the goal line there and looked like they were going to take the lead, but Andre Turrentine with an interception in the end zone. From there on out, by the way, local guy, Ensworth School. Fun to see local guys in bowl season. Junior Colson, the Michigan linebacker, flying all over the place yesterday, Ravenwood product. So that's always cool.
Like, sorry to interrupt you, but it's kind of like, I don't know if you caught the exchange with J.J. McCarthy and one of the Alabama linemen that was his high school teammate at the end of the game, just to kind of, you know, bring it full circle. So it's cool for a lot of these guys, too, and certainly for somebody like Lucas who does so many high school games, to see these guys excelling at the next level. Always fun. Whether you think it's fun, whether you think it's fiction, whether you think it's something ridiculous in between. What in sports made you say, "Oh no," this weekend? We'll do it next.